Welcome back, everyone. This is once again Josh with Joshi Howard and Zane Zinz and Nelson as we're going to get into Game 2 between Rampage Gaming and Unsold Stuff Gaming. Rampage had a very dominant Game 1. Why don't you take us through it?
Yeah, Rampage drafted a really strong pick composition. Definitely their key members were Ramune on his classic Syndra, and Tussle playing Elise for the first time in the LJL to great success. Together with Evi's Tom Kench, they were able to protect Yutori Miyasi's Lucian, who went absolutely off that game, and was able to secure an easy victory.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw very big plays coming out at the very beginning from Unsold Stuff, with the level 1 cheese, the 3v2 as Rampage started to move in and try and destroy some of Unsold Stuff's plants. But they get Dara's flash, but weren't able to return to that lane and do anything with it. And the decisiveness of Rampage was able to carry them through the rest of the game.
Yeah, and I really like talking about how these players have improved over the series of the LJL. This is a relatively new League of Legends scene. They don't have the breadth of talent maybe the other regions have just by sheer number of players, but Rampage has really stepped it up, shortened their game times, and smartened up their picks.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're starting to see, a lot of attention already being paid to Rampage's Dara, who had a very good game on the Lulu in the last in the last game that they played, doing a lot of work with that, keeping Utoria alive, keeping the rest of the members alive, and just getting a lot of damage and utility and extra health and shields coming through for the rest of his team, and already both the Lulu and the Malzahar banned away from him.
Yeah, and I actually really think this is interesting because USG is on blue side, will have access to that first pick, but rather than leave Lulu available for themselves to pick, NT doesn't want to take that option, so he goes ahead and bans it away from his opponent Dara. I find that interesting. We'll have to see if that works out for them. They do have several strong picks available to them for this first pick. I'm curious what they opt to do. Do they want to grab maybe a strong top laner, split pusher?
Looks like they are going to pick up that Tom Kench, and that's something we've seen both Oppaman and NT play before. It's a very strong champion. We saw how effective it was at keeping your ADC alive, but also just being a reasonably strong duelist just on his own as he moves around just fighting with all the other members. Interestingly, we also saw Rampage ban out Syndra here. Ramune is not going to be able to take it, but they fear Remind Syndra. It's a very strong champion in basically anyone's hands, and they are going to grab up the Lucian and the Elise for themselves, and we saw just how effective Rampage's ADC can be on that champion, just rampaging through the other team.
Yeah, and you can see sort of the priorities for both teams sort of take flight in this first half of the draft phase. Rampage sticking with the strategy that works, right? Why change what worked for them? They do ban the Syndra because they don't have the option to pick it in this game, so they feel comfortable switching that champion up, but are going to go ahead and pick up Lucian and Elise. USG, on the other side, want to prevent what happened last game from happening, so they first pick Tom Kench, who can also be a flex pick, but just make sure that Yutori Miyasi is actually touchable this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do see Neo going for that Lee Sin again. While he has played that game several times in the games that they've played previously, I believe he won both times that they did have that champion. Oh no, I just lied. It's just the one time. He does have, a decent win rate with it, but I have to say I wasn't that impressed with his play on Lee Sin last game, and I really hope that he's able to bring something a little bit more successful this time around. We do see Ramune picking up that Nautilus that could, once again, that's also a flex pick. Both Tom Kench and Nautilus can be played either in the top lane or as a support.
Yeah, and it looks like, talking about that, Rampage ends up spending a ban in the second half of the ban phase on Singed. This is one of the advantages of having champions who can flex into multiple roles, is that if Oppaman intends to use Tom Kench at the top lane, Rampage just wasted a ban on a champion that they didn't have to deal with,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just so strong, just being able to do that because they just don't know what they're doing it. But again, they are not keen on playing Optimum Singe. He's played that 3 times in the regular season. Excuse me, with a 19 KDA over those 3 games. They were all victories, and that's not something they want to deal with. He's very strong, very very aggressive with that. And we do see not the final bank. I mean, Unsold Stuff is using up all of their time as they really try and figure out what they want to do, and it is the brand coming out. Now that's both a mid lane pick and potentially a support pick. More likely a support pick, but it's a very scary thing. And once again, the flex pick with the Nautilus being a little unsure where they're sending the Nautilus, so they have to assume he's going to where they want him least.
Right. And USG, I'm curious what Remind is going to, because the Katarina was banned out, even though it wasn't necessarily that successful in the previous game. Rampage doesn't want to see that happen. Along with the Syndra taken out as well, perhaps his signature champion. I'm very curious what he falls back on. He's down a game in this series. What champion does he play that he thinks is going to bring this back? He also has to pick this blind, not knowing what Rampage is going to pick for their mid laner.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do see Orianna being hovered right now. That is something he has played with some success previously. It doesn't look like he's played that in this matchup though against Ramune before, but it could be a very successful pick. I just haven't seen him play that at all. But this is interesting. Anivia is not a character you see very much in the LJL. Nobody has games on Anivia. Unsold Stuff doesn't have games. Rampage doesn't have games. You very rarely see that on any of the other teams either. Oh, they do end up going with the Ari. Pardon me. But they are going to go up with something a little bit
Yeah.
more meta. Utori on that Lucian again. Dara with a Karma this time up against NT's Thresh. And this could be very interesting. NT had a very strong ultimate on that Zyra last game, which potentially won them a fight. They unfortunately did not get a whole lot off of it. But Thresh, if Zyra has one or two playmaking abilities, Thresh has 4.
Yeah, and I like the adaptation from Ramune to play Ari. It's a champion that he's seen success on, has played twice so far in the LPL, won both of those games with a pretty solid KDA of 5.8. Additionally, this maintains the same strategy that Rampage went for in the previous game. They had these 2 powerful pick champions in Syndra and Elise. Well, now instead of Syndra, you've got Ari, who's got maybe a little bit less range, but a really potent ability in Charm.
Yeah. And their team comp, just like you said, is looking very similar to what they were playing in the first game. They have a very tanky top laner with good peel, good engage abilities. They have, Utori on that Lucian, a pick mid lane jungle synergy, and Karma. If you don't have Lulu, Karma's, pretty similar in what she does. She gives a lot of survivability to whoever it is that she chooses to do, and a lot of mobility running around as they use the ultimate to just dash around the map. Except now it's going to be on the entire team.
Yeah. And Unsold Stuff Gaming, looking to mix it up a little bit. They still have sort of this hard engage composition. They can really force fights with Lee Sin and with a Jin ultimate slowing the entire team down. It's a question of, will they be able to get the damage down now? Will they be able to focus down the targets? Because in the previous game, they had a little bit of trouble with that. With the Lulu off the table, it might be a little bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely. We are seeing people once again coming down to this bot lane. There are 4 members of Unsold Stuff down here once again. I don't think they'll be able to get the same bait off a little bit. Neo's looking around the side, but he's not going to be able to pick up anything onto Dara or onto Utori. Just going to go back into the jungle a little bit, start up those Raptors. But we are seeing, pretty standard stuff coming out from all of these players right now. The cleanse onto your mind, of course, with the charm from Ramne is going to be very important to keep your own jungle alive as you deal with, keep yourself alive while the charm comes through. But again, nothing too unusual from anybody coming out in this part of the game so far.
Yeah. Um, perhaps maybe the only thing being noteworthy that both supports chose to take Ignite over Exhaust. Exhaust a little bit weaker than it has been in previous iterations. A while back, they removed it used to give an attack speed slow that it no longer does, so it's less effective against AD carries. Um, so a lot of people today just take the Ignite, go for the kill pressure. Unless there's something that absolutely needs to be damage reduced, like a Zed or something.
Absolutely, yeah. And with the Ignite, just there's so much kill pressure. A lot of bot lane, especially as you start watching different kinds of streams, they talk about how scary it is to play against that Ignite because it's just extra about 100 damage as you start going through, and you have to be very careful when you trade because a bad trade could potentially give your opponent a dive in a situation where they didn't really have that opportunity before.
Yeah, both junglers uh, starting their clears pretty standard. Tussle is going to use the blast cone to start up his blue buff a little bit early. Might look for a roam at level 3. However, with Yutora Mayasti and Dara shoving up for the level 2 advantage, um, unlikely to come to fruition this early on.
Yeah, look at all the damage they're putting down onto End. He does have the Relic Shield and a couple more potions left, but that's still so much damage and potential kill pressure that they have going forward. But there's not a whole lot that Unsold stuff can do about it right now. With Orianna in the mid lane, not particularly well known for her ability to roam, and Lee Sin on the opposite side of the jungle. NT and Heredia are just gonna have to deal with it a little bit right now. And with that Scuttle Crab taking down for RPG, it's gonna be even more difficult to send people into that bottom lane.
Yeah. And a part of that is just like really smart play from Rampage. A part of that is also USG got a little bit unlucky with how the minion it broke in such a way that they couldn't move up even to necessarily grab experience on some of those like further away minions that were dying while Rampage zoned them off. And so now they're trying to CS under turret to pretty decent success, I have to say.
Yeah, and they are staying relatively even, but a 7 CS difference at less than 4 minutes is fairly substantial. It's going to take a little bit of time, but look at this top lane going on right now. The last time we saw these guys face off, it was in the other champions, and it was pretty even, but Opperman not able to put on as much pressure onto Evie in the reverse of the matchup, and this could potentially be very big if Nautilus does get a substantial CS lead. He doesn't have it right now, but when he's able to bully around his lane opponent like that, the CS lead is pretty inevitable as we start to move forward.
Yeah. I think that a large portion of this early game will revolve around the mid laners. Ramune, with the combination of Tussle, is a very terrifying like level 6 gank that Remind has to be worried about.
Lots of damage going on. It doesn't matter how threatening your level 6 is if you're already getting bullied around so hard at level 5. This is potentially a dive coming out from Neo as he starts to move around. Tussle is in the area, but Ramune being so low, it might not really matter. You can kill that Fox and get out with it really quickly. Neo.
Yeah. Oh, actually, this might be bad.
Neo gets it down, does get the stun back from Tussle, but he's not going to be able to do a lot of damage. Both of them are going to back away. Both of them see that their mid laners are starting to come over, and with Ramune getting there first, it's not a fight that Tussle's really going to be able to do a whole lot about. Here we go. The fight's starting to turn around the other way. Opperman's starting to move forward. He wants to get the Devourer. Does get it onto Evie. Evie does not have a whole lot of mana left, but he's still got a lot of extra health and forces the Grey health to be popped by Opperman. He's not going to be able to regenerate that. And that could be all she wrote for a large portion of this lane.
Yeah. Opperman's going to have to recall right now. Probably will have to spend his teleport in order to pick up the minions.
He chooses to stay, though.
Interesting. I suppose Evie, is unlikely to dive by himself.
Yeah, very true. They don't know where Tussle is, but they feel confident enough with the ward behind him and Neo nearby that it's not going to be a big threat. And Neo is nearby. Opman's choosing to stay. It looks like they might try and bait something out of Evie, but Nice is going to stick around and pick up what CS he can. He is going to maintain a CS lead overall with both of his summoners. So even though the lane bully is going into Evie's favor, it's potentially not going to manifest itself as a gold advantage for the team. And we already see a 300 gold advantage mostly manifesting from that Mid lane coming up. Uh-oh, here comes Neo. Ramne is level 6 with both his flash and his ultimate. But he's starting to fall very behind in this lane.
Yeah. One thing that I'd like to see out of Neo a little bit more is more aggressive posturing on this Lee Sin. In the previous game, he didn't really find the early game advantage that he would have liked. He had a couple nice kicks in the end game, but unfortunately, it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, uh-oh.
Uh,
Mine's threatening right here. Talk about aggressive posturing. Posturing very aggressively with that command attack as we start to move in. Neo's hovering around the back. I don't think this is the die that want to go, but he'll be able to get a lot of damage here into Tussle. Starts up with the opening strikes. Not going to be a whole lot. The stun comes back. Tussle's just trying to get a little bit of damage back. It's not a completely lost trade, but with his flash down, next time they find each other in the jungle, it's not going to go his way. Uh-oh, and here we see Opperman right here. He has a lot more health. We must have missed a significant trade between these two because they both had an opportunity to back. But it's going to be definitely going to Opperman's way right now. And able to pick up that pink ward right away. Evie's fairly low health, and Neo is starting to come around, potentially looking for a dive onto this very tanky Nautilus.
yeah, I really appreciate Neo's map movements. He's trying to control top, and it's been working out for him. Forces the flash a couple of minutes ago and able to secure the red buff as well. Now he knows exactly where Tussle is. He can threaten both Ari and Nautilus from his position.
Uh-oh, here comes Romney trying to come out. Misses the charm, but he's getting a lot of damage. Great kick from Neo, but the Ignite is going to burn him down. That's first blood going over to Romney, and that is huge. He was so far behind in this lane, down nearly 15 CS, but he's going to even it up very quickly with that first blood, getting extra gold into his hands, and I believe a red buff as well, able to stay much healthier with the relatively new passive they put onto that ability.
Yeah, and now Tussle looking for the dive.
Here they go.
Decent amount of damage.
A lot of damage. Here comes the teleport. Double teleport coming down. The hook does go down onto Tussle, trying to pick up Enti, but he is devoured up by Opperman. Here comes Evie trying to get a return kill. They do manage to get a lot of damage onto Enti. Utori's not able to quite pick it up, and Dara goes down and execute. Evie does manage to pick up the kill onto Enti finally, but Utori first death in this series, and this is disaster. There's 3 kills going over already to USG. Romney's going to have to get out. He is going to be able to do so successfully. Uh-oh, here comes Opperman. Remind, they might be able to get a little bit more. He still has the command shockwave, just a little bit more damage, and that is going to be another kill going over to Neo. With the dragon available, that Cloud Drake could potentially be going over. They choose not to do so. They're just going to put up a bunch of numbers, but 4 kills to 2.
Yeah, definitely a bit of an overstep by Rampage. They thought that they had the numbers at the start of this fight. They get a ton of damage down on her already. However, USG just respawns so well. They get the first teleport. The flash out of Aquaman will keep Enti just a little bit alive, and this forces RPG to really overcommit. They dive way too far, and then USG just has the members. They return into the fight, and they clean it up. Dara also having to tank the turret just dies. Not really sure if that was part of the plan.
I'm sure it wasn't, but that was ultimately, if you include Dara being executed, that was an ace onto Rampage. Every member of Rampage died during that fight, and it's not a huge gold advantage yet. With all the buffs, all the summoners being down on Rampage in the next couple of minutes, this could be very big as Unsold Stuff tries to expand the lead that they just picked up.
Yeah. If Neo can find a key gank right now, they might be able to secure their lead and maybe snowball it into a turret take. We'll have to see where he chooses to move next on the map now that he's given this sort of newfound freedom. It looks like his current plan is to continue to counter jungle. He's putting in deep wards, trying to slow down Tussle as much as possible.
Yeah, and they know where Tussle is. They know he's likely moving towards the mid. The try misses from Ramne. Ramne going very aggressive on to remind the shockwave, or not the shockwave, the, what's the term? Lee Sin's first Q?
Sonic Wave?
Sonic Wave, yes. It sounds similar. Sonic Wave misses as they try to go in, so there is going to be able to back away, but Utori trying to go a little bit more aggressive. They're just clearing out some wards here. But that's not good when you can't get a return kill, blowing up your ultimate without actually getting anything for it. And now Neo's starting to look behind, potentially going to ward jump, trying to pick up that blue buff.
Yeah, Neo can ward jump over the wall and then immediately flash to
Oh,
get
here
the
he goes. Here comes Opperman too with the Abyssal Voyage getting a lot of damage into Ramana. There comes a Shockwave. That is going to be the kill going over to Remind. I'm not
yeah.
sure Opperman needed to use the Abyssal Voyage there, but, you know, better safe than sorry. That is going to get them the first turret of the game. Yutori is going to go very aggressive, getting a lot of damage on here onto Anti. Dara is going to go low, but it's not going to matter as Yutori manages to pick up that first kill of the game for his team, and this is bad. Dara is taking 2 shots. One more will end his life, but Yutori is going to be a good teammate, keep him safe as they just try and wait out the rest of the Jin ultimate. It does go down, but here comes Neo. This could potentially be a couple more kills. He's standing on a ward, but it's not going to
Oh,
matter
here
when he
comes
picks up
Aquaman and
Neo.
Remind.
Yeah, it misses the tongue. Dara is going to go down. Has to flash out. Just a little bit more damage. Yutori's trying to find anything he can, but he's not going to be able to get enough. The 4th shot coming in from Jin. That's going to be all she wrote as they do pick up 2 more kills.
Yeah, Unsold Stuff Gaming really stepping it up in this game, working together as a team in a way that they didn't do in the last game of the series. Really just rotating the map as a huge sort of death ball of champions and picking up kill after kill and their second turret of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And Evie does manage to pick up the second or first turret for his team. He did not have his teleport available during that gank or during that dive, so he was not able to join his team and just takes the consolation prize, picks up a little bit more gold for his team as they try to move around a bit. The saving grace for Rampage right now is just how far ahead in terms of CS both their top laner and their ADC are right now. 20 CS lead for Evie over Opperman, and a nearly 30 CS lead for Yutori over Haredi. It's equalizing their gold within a kill of each other. But when you have 1,000 gold deficit on your mid laner, it's a saving grace, but it might not be enough saving.
Right. And, you know, I want to give huge props to Aquaman. He
Woo.
game. The
Almost got it.
so close, yet so far. Um, you know, his map moments have been so good. He rotated mid with the Abyssal Voyage to pick up an easy kill on a Ramune, and then immediately runs bot lane with the rest of his team. Just really taking advantage of the fact that Evie, you know, Nautilus is not a strong split pushing champion. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage to turrets.
Yeah,
And Opperman, okay to trade a turret for 2 kills and now pressure on a Cloud Drake.
Yeah, absolutely. Unsold Stuff is going to get this pretty uncontested. It is a Cloud Drake, which most solo queue players don't put a whole lot of faith into. It is going to be an Infernal Drake next as they come up. But the Cloud Drake at this level of play is very impactful. They're already ahead. They're going to be able to make rotations just that extra little bit faster so that they'll be able to do something like we saw last game with the Rampage moving around with that Mountain Drake getting just little bits of extra damage every here and there on the turrets does add up over time. Just getting there just a little bit faster.
Yeah,
So
and I like the Cloud Drake with Orianna as well. You know, frequently, well, perhaps not all that frequently, but sometimes when you have a mobile frontliner that you're looking the command shockwave on, such as Neo, you end up in situations where the Lee Sin or, you know, whatever champion that is, this highly movable champion to use shockwave on, moves too far ahead of the group, right? But being able to give yourself extra move speed with the Cloud Drake and with Oriana's W can really help
Stone onto
secure some
Anti. Here
fights.
comes the Death Charge, not going out, actually just getting the Dredge line onto him, forces him to blow his flash. They do trade the turret for it, but hey, it's something. Something instead of nothing. But we're starting to see Tori move down towards the bottom, has more deaths this game. He's really trying to bring up that average. If he doesn't die at all the rest of this game, he will maintain his average of 1 death per game. But right now, he's just trying to get a CS lead, nearly 50 CS, halfway to the flame horizon of the rest of his team.
And it's really interesting. You see there, like he's pinging onto the map. Typically, when you see USG's team all the way up at the top side, that should be a free turn. However, the threat of Abyssal Voyage keeps him back. He didn't know how many members of USG were coming into the bottom lane, so he had to leave that turret available. And that's something that's unique to this champion match. Had it been any other champion coming out of the bottom,
yeah, absolutely.
take that turret.
And it's just scary when you start dealing with all these globals at the competitive level of play. We in this game, the only one we really see is Tom Kench, but we start to see things like Galio. He's not on this patch. He's not available to be played right now, but you got Galio, Twisted Fate, Shen are all meta champions right now that we can see people move around very quickly with, and even Kled's starting to get some play both in the competitive scene and in solo queue. Just able to move around, force engages very successfully, and it could really start to make a difference. And we saw it make a difference last game as well.
Yeah, I definitely feel like Opperman's Tom has seen a little bit more success this game than Evie's Tom Kench. I mean, Evie's Tom Kench was fantastic for
Yeah.
keeping
Uh-oh. Here comes
Hikaru
Tussle.
Miyasi alive.
Taking a lot of damage. Shockwave could finish it up, but he's just going to have to back away back into his base. Those gates, man. This might date
So
myself a little
helpful.
bit. Those gates were not always there.
Yeah.
Now we just take them for granted, but when you were stuck on the other side of your base, here comes the three onto Ramune, taken down very quickly as we force the flash out. Here comes Optimate taking a lot of damage. He takes the Culling under the turret, eats up his teammate. He's gonna spin him back out, but Neil's looking to go back in. Evie is at half health, but just gonna pop the Grey Health and back out after taking down the mid laner.
NT with the fantastic hook. Remind immediately pulls the trigger on the command shockwave. Such a massive amount of damage onto both Dara and Ramune. Dara is able to
Neo goes
heal
back
up
in
a little
again. That was cute. No other word for it. That was cute.
bit. Yeah, little bit terrifying. I've definitely had games as a league player where you follow the queue to try and intimidate your opponent and you end up just
Yeah.
dying.
And here
But
we
let's
go
look at
again.
this again. NC waits for the perfect moment, somehow catches Ramune out of all the champions there, just absolutely blows him up with the rest of the team. Dara now zoned out of the fight. You can see Heretti is going to try and fire this fourth shot at him, doesn't quite get him. But even so, just the decision making and the decisiveness that USG has had this game is a fresh change from the previous game
Yeah.
in this series.
And then we see Opman there with great awareness, eating up Neo as Neo's in the threat of taking one more turret shot and dying, and just keeping his little buddy safe as he goes so deep by himself. But I guess that's just Lee Sin things, and in return, Tom Kench things. And we do see a little bit more what do you call it, offensive items built here onto Neo's Lee Sin, picking up the Hex Drinker as well as the Warrior Enchant instead of say the Cinder Hulk or I don't know, literally anything more defensive. He is going for a little bit more damage because he's able to, as his champion just is ahead. You can build a little bit of damage, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of damage starting to come out from all the members of Unsold stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate the Hex Drinker as well. It's especially strong on champions like Lee Sin because um, Lee Sin is going to he's not a traditional tank, right? He's more of a bruiser. He's going to jump in and out of team fights. He's going to take some bursts of damage and then run away, right?
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
giving yourself a little bit of extra HP with the shield against 4 magic damage champions on the side of Rampage is really significant. And now USG looking to cement their lead, working on setting up
Uh-oh.
this dragon.
Ramen is sitting there in the bush waiting for someone. Neo looks like he is going to try and find it. Pings back from the rest of his teammate. But the Infernal Dragon is available, and all 5 members of Unsold Stuff are sitting around. NT does not manage to land that hook. But this is a potentially really big thing. Heretti opens up with the ultimate, getting a couple of shots down onto Tussle. They are going to go onto the jungler. That's who you need to kill if you want to try and pick up a dragon. But they're not going to be able to do it. Optimus starting to take a lot of damage, stunned up by Tussle. They go and Neo gets the kick back onto Yutori. He's going to stuck an entire enemy team, and he does go down. That is his 3rd death of the game. And with
Neo
Ramne's,
coming up huge.
yeah, Ramne was not in that fight at all. And that's exactly the opposite of what you want to be doing as Rampage. Rampage, once again, has that pick composition. You can't be fighting undermanned like that when your entire goal is to find the man advantages for yourself. Tussle caught up, hit by the shockwave. A lot of damage coming out from your mind. One more attack will do it. NT finds the hook onto Dara. That's not who he expected to find, but they do get the kill onto Tussle, and Dara does go down as well. They're looking for a little bit more. The depth charge is going to come out. Heretti's trying to find something, but he's not going to do anything. But with 2 members dead, one of them being the jungler, Unsold Stuff is going to go directly to Baron.
Yeah, this is a really strong adaptation here. Tussle, not really sure what he was doing. I think he was looking to shove up the mid lane, try and get some damage on the turret, but pays for it with his life.
Yeah.
Evie now looking to stop this Baron.
He doesn't have his ultimate. He does go and gets a lot of damage in with that E, but immediately flashes out as they turn towards him. They are going to be able to stop this Baron. Ramne does not have his ultimate, so if they find something, the Dredge line does not pick anything up. But they do stop the Baron, and that's all that they needed to do.
Yeah, USG took a ton of damage from that Baron. I think that they underestimated the amount of magic damage that Baron actually does. None of the members of USG have magic resist with the exception of Opperman, and so that coupled with the increased damage you take when you're doing the Baron really shredded them down, and they just smartly were able to run away.
Yeah, and it's so early in the game, only 21 minutes. It's very unusual, especially without Mountain Drakes in order to be able to get that. They have an Infernal Drake and a Cloud Drake, which are very strong, but they're not going to help you take a Baron very quickly. The Infernal will help a little bit, and, Rampage responds correctly. They do send a couple of things. Evie's, jump in real quick with the Riptide, getting some good damage down across the team with the reduced magic resist from the Baron. Oh, excuse me, and he's playing the Nautilus like it needs to be played. Aggressive, annoying, and just in your face. And they're starting to move around again as they posture towards this Baron a second time. Evie does not have his teleport available, so if he wants to do anything, he's going to have to do it quickly. He's starting to move out the bottom lane with all the minions. And we'll see exactly how this goes. Neo's looking.
Yeah, and you can see USG playing just in general a lot. It's so much easier to shot call in this game when you know that you already have an advantage.
Good damage going back onto Neo and Dar. A lot of damage going on to Opperman. Hardy's going to open up with that Jin ultimate. Ramne is looking to stop that. They do manage to prevent it from too many shots, but it reminds onto the fight. Opperman comes in. The great health needs to be popped. He's taking a lot of damage. Evie starts to take a couple of turret shots, but the remind not there. Able to do anything. It is going to be a mid lane turret as Rampage does manage to start team fighting again.
Yeah, smart positioning from Rampage. Starting that fight towards the mid lane in such a way that USG has to run towards the Baron. They can't take the Baron anymore because they're low HP, but because of RPG's positioning, they're just able to easily transition into a mid lane turret take.
Yeah, absolutely. And who was it that you were saying was talking about the power of the Scuttle Crabs? Oh no, here comes Opperman coming in. He's taking NT with him. That's not a lot of damage on the rest of the team, but they do manage to eat up Nautilus as he goes for the Dredge line. He is stunned up by that flourish from Jin, getting a lot of damage. Depth charge does go down. He has no flash, and that is going to be his life. And with the top laner down, this is another potential opportunity. They're going to try again. He's on the wrong side of the Baron. Gets a shockwave down onto Tussle and Ramne, keeping him on the wrong side. Ramne is almost dead. Tussle needs to get in there if he's going to be able to do anything. Utori's on the side with a huge CS lead on his opponent, but it's not going to be enough. They do call to back away and just cede the Baron to the other team.
Wow. I have to commend USG for that play around the Baron. The fact that Remind was able to zone 3 members of RPG away from potentially contesting, using the shockwave really early, and then getting out with NT's Thresh Lantern.
Yeah, and he's just
really smart play.
Just so strong right now. I thought the Abyssal Voyage coming out from Opperman was going to be an abysmal voyage, as I see him teleporting into 3 members. We see it right here. It comes out. I thought he was dead, but no. There's no damage coming back.
Yeah, and he's so tanky. What a fantastic Devour. Just able to pick up, stop Evie dead in his tracks, and pick up an easy kill there. And then watch from Remind here. He just sits and waits, gets damage on the 2 members. All 4 members of RPG are just stuck back there. And then with a quick lantern, they're able to secure the Baron, and now look for a shove in the mid lane.
Yeah, that was well done because he used the ball in such a way that he could get vision because there was not a ward in that bush when he used the shockwave. But he was able to find 2 members of it. A little bit of intuition and a little bit of vision from the ball is going to be enough to secure one of the most important objectives that has ever been in League of Legends.
Yeah. And now, after pushing up the mid lane turret, USG look to take the easiest turret to take for them, the bottom tier 2. Smart wave manipulation from them. You push RPG back by shutting up the mid lane, and then while they're still stuck in their base, you rotate and take the easier turret.
Yeah, and Evie's looking. Neo gets... He's looking as well, even though he's blind. They're still going to be looking for an engage possibly. They are managing to get that pink ward down. Well played by Rampage to get that tiny bit of advantage. But now they're going to have to play over this wall without a whole lot of vision to do anything. And USG can just move around and take whichever turret is easier at the time. And look how quickly this turret is going down. Evi's not able to do anything. There's not an engage coming out. Uh-oh, Charm lands onto Neo. It's not going to lead into anything.
Yeah, USG happy to really flex their muscles a little bit. Rampage not able to find the right engage. They need to find a dredge line onto. Really, they have to hit Heretti because Remind has been on point with his cleanse so far this game.
Yeah.
So they need to find Heretti and they need to take him out as. And at this point in the game, it's getting harder and harder. This pick composition doesn't work if you can't, find champions caught out in singular positions.
Yeah, and it's a good job by Unsold Stuff as well. They're not giving Rampage the opportunity to use the pick comp that they've developed. They are staying as a group, and Neo up here right now, this is probably the most spread out he's been from anyone on the team in a long time. Normally, they've all had groups of 3, groups of 4 as they move around, just able to take everything very comfortably, very safe, because, again, they have the Tom Kench, they have the Orianna Shield, they have the Thresh, able to do everything and just entirely stop any potential aggression coming out of Rampage.
Yeah, and now USG, they have one last remaining tier 2 outer turret to take, so that's where they're going to direct the bulk of their forces. Opperman going to go ahead and feel comfortable split pushing a little bit with that teleport, with the Abyssal Voyage. Doesn't feel too bad about making his way to the turret. Will be able to do that very quickly.
Absolutely, and he still has the Baron buff, so when that wave does hit that turret, it will do a lot of damage to it. So if there's a time for a Rampage... Oh, never mind. He did lose the Baron buff. Was he dead at the time? No. He hasn't died, so I'm not... Oh, that's the...
He doesn't have the mastery.
Oh, did the mastery affect the Baron buff too?
Yes, it affects... there's a runic mastery that increases the duration of Baron buff. We saw it on Neo there, which allowed push the turret a little bit further on. It affects both Baron and Rift Herald.
Interesting. That is really big news to me. I had not heard of that. But Oppen's getting caught out. A couple of stuns coming down, but it's not going to be enough. Just manages to flash out. Not even taking that much damage. He's just that tanky now with the Sunfire, the Spirit Visage, and most of the Locket of the Iron Solari completed. He's just going to be able to move around and kind of do whatever he wants.
Yeah, I like this positioning from USG. Oof. They by sending Opperman, now they're sticking him right on top of the champions, so that even if Remind gets cut out by a Dreadline, he's just going to immediately be devoured and walked away to safety.
Absolutely. And
but
Neo's Lee Sin has evolved. Last game I wasn't super impressed with it, but this game, again, it's super cute.
Yeah.
He keeps doing these little dodgy things as he moves around. We saw him dodge the Dreadline there, just like, haha, taunting, and then just dashing away with that safeguard to a minion. We've seen it a couple times this game. I'm much more impressed this game, but of course, it's much easier to make plays when you're super far ahead. And both games so far, we've seen early leads coming out for one of the teams, and so far they've been snowballing it very quickly. Unsold Stuff has, one of every animal almost at this point, kind of being like a Noah's Ark as they start moving around the bottom lane. Dragon will be up for several more minutes, but, with any luck, that should be an Ocean Drake so they can complete their collection. Gotta catch them all.
You're very correct, Josh. It's really important that you do your best to master all 4 of the elements. Although, unfortunately, that's actually impossible in dreams, but there can only ever be 3 types of dragon in a game. So they won't have an Ocean Drake. As much as I wish that they could catch them all.
Yeah,
not going to be a thing in this game.
There's no avatar here for unstable... what am I talking about? Unsold Stuff. But, they are going to move
with Godfist Lee Sin's coming out, though, Neo might be able to... make that happen.
You can't be both the one and the avatar. That's just cheating.
That's true. Well, USG now looking to set up vision around Baron. Really great stuff. They know that they can
Uh-oh, here comes
probably
Neo.
take a fight,
Gets charmed up. There's a lot of damage going on to him. Redemption popped quite early there by Unsold stuff, but it's gonna heal Neo back up to full as he starts to move around and start looking for the second Baron of the game.
yeah, I like this aggressive posturing from USG. They know that they have the gold advantage to win a fight, as long as they don't completely screw up their positioning and get one member caught out. They should be able to just sit at this Baron and
Uh-oh, they're gonna
make a
have
fight
to
happen.
face check. Enti's hook does miss. Tussle's going in a little bit too deep. A charm does come down onto Optimed, but Evie is onto Enti right now, doing a lot of damage for support, but did he just get eaten over the wall? No, he flashes over to the side, and there's going to be a lot going on. Not a lot of damage put down onto Rampage, but a good chunk down onto
But look
Enti's
at this,
Thresh.
Yutori Mayasi in a fantastic position, able to pressure this mid tier 2 turret. USG is going to respawn by pushing up the top lane, and it's going to force a total recall.
And look, Yutori just started his recall. He's going to be back very late, and the immediate decisive decision coming out from USG to move around, and they don't have their ADC yet. They can't engage until he gets there, but there goes Neo getting a lot of damage. Gets the kick down on Evie. He comes through doing so much damage, but there's so many people in the AoE going on right now. Ramune gets the ult going off across, but Hustle, one-man shockwave coming out. They're turning around onto Optimum, takes the Dark Passage out. Stun misses, but they're going into on Remind. This might be the team fight. The Rampage needs it. Oh, getting so much. Neo goes back in, does not manage to take down Yutori. He's still alive, but Evie does finally go down. His Guardian Angel is popped, and look, nobody's died. They've got a couple of Guardian Angels popped. Evie is still alive. Anything left will kill him, but the redemption comes through, redeeming them for the bad positioning, and they will turn around, and I think they're going to go directly to the Baron. There they go, all standing on top of the blast cone. Big plays,
Teamwork.
And they are starting, and it's not in vision of Rampage. They are going to do it. Remind is visible, but they're not going to be able to respond
Look at how quick
fast
that
enough.
goes. Yeah, what an interesting fight. The TP is going to not happen. Evie ends up having to cancel it. Maybe a little bit too ambitious there. But the way that USG manipulated that fight, running in and out, they were so low for fight. But
Absolutely.
RPG, it's tricky when you have such short range champions. Ramune is not on this like long range nuke Syndra champion. Now he's stuck on this Ari, which is less effective when you're behind and you can't run into the enemy team to assassinate, keep targets.
Yeah, and here we go. Here we see the next Mountain Dragon being picked up by Unsold stuff. It's not as effective anymore now that the Baron's already been taken, but it'll help them pick up the last inhibitor turret, as well as the next turrets as they start to push forward for that. Meanwhile, role-playing game is stuck in their base, and there's not a whole lot that they can really do about anything right here. They're going to have to wave clear, but against a Baroned-up team, Tom Kench just pops his Elixir. It's going to be very difficult for them to do anything. That pink ward is going to get cleared in a moment, but they're just going to take this inhibitor more or less uncontested, and Jin's crits coming down onto inhibitors just seems unfair. But that's
Yeah.
what he does. Here we go. Dredgeling goes down onto Optimum. They're going to try for a little bit of desperation play. Culling gets some decent damage, but not doing a whole lot. As it goes wide, they're going to start doing what they can. Uh-oh. Here comes a death sentence onto Evie, getting a little bit of damage onto him. Just goes through the courage of the Colossus shield. Not a whole lot doing there. Yutori, again, aggressive, but here we go, getting the dredge line, but Dar is getting pulled in. Unfortunately, NT does not choose to go in on the death sentence, but here comes the redemption. But they're taking a lot of damage in this poke, and RPG is staying relatively healthy, but this could be turned around very quickly. Here comes the ultimate coming out from Jin. They're going to try and do something about it. Lots of damage going down onto Ramune with the Sonic Wave on him. Uh-oh, Neo goes in, misses the charm, but lots of damage. Here comes Opperman picking up with Neo, going in. Evie's in the middle of the enemy team, but does not have a lot of mana left. They're just going to back away, but that's a win for Rocket Propelled Grenade.
Yeah, this is a really interesting and sort of weird game to watch. You see neither team really comfortable committing to a straight fight. So they just sort of do this dance back and forth, throwing at abilities, throwing at ultimates, sort of praying that one of them connects and does a lot of damage. Neither team really able to find the engage that they want. However, Rampage happy to protect their top inhibitor.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those people who aren't very familiar with watching the LJL, the fighting that we're seeing right here, it's it's a little bit weird from a lot of other regions, but for what is it for this region? It's pretty normal. That tends to be how they go because there's usually a couple members of each team that are much stronger players than the rest of the people on the team, and they tend to do the shot calling. But when it's players like Utori, when it's players like Heredia and Remind, who are tend to be in positions where they are very focused on keeping themselves safe, it can often be very difficult for them to move in. I think that's part of why we've seen Rampage be so successful is because unlike many ADCs who tend to shot call for the team, Utori is aggressive. And we've seen that in the last fight. He was moving forward. He's got the damage going in, and he just wants to get on top of the enemy team all the time.
Yeah, and that sort of forces your team forward, right? If you're a shot calling AD carry and you say, I'm going to move up, either you guys protect me
Or
or
we
we
lose.
lose.
Yeah, and here we go. USG is coming right up here once again, trying to get this inhibitor. The Baron buff does not have a whole lot of time. It is left only on Neo right now. Uh-oh, stun misses from Tussle. That could be the go sign. The Sonic Wave is on to Utori, but you're not going to do a whole... Uh-oh, Shockwave onto Dara and Utori. The Redemption comes out. The inhibitor already goes down. The Dara is very low, but there's a lot of damage going through it, and he's being eaten up by Opperman as they go forward. Evie tries to do a little bit of damage, but the ultimate's already down. There goes Ramna getting a good chunk out of the members. Dredgeling pulls Opperman back in, but he's such a tanky toad as he keeps going in. Evie's getting eaten up once more. Spit back into the enemy team. A lot of health left on that tank as Neo goes in, tries to get good damage onto Tussle. Tussle's going to have to flash out of the ultimate, and Dara can't afford to take the shot, but Ramune can as they once again back away, but this time they picked up the inhibitor.
Yeah, USG has to be pretty happy with that result. RPG, also, not the worst thing that could have happened there. Despite losing their inhibitor, they didn't lose any members of their team, which could have been disastrous with a wave pushing down in the bottom lane.
Yeah, absolutely. That RPG is happy with any fight at this point that does not lose them the game. And they didn't lose the game there, so it's not the best thing that could have happened, but you'll take it. Your Nexus is still alive. You still have a chance. There's still the opportunity for a fantastic combat, a fantastic team fight with someone like Utori or Ramne just going off on their opponents. And, uh-oh, here comes the Abyssal Voyage from Opperman. Going after Ramne, he's going to be forced to ult, dodges the death sentence, but he's behind enemy lines. There's all 5 members of the enemy team. He uses his ult, he uses his flash. He's going to have to keep running. There's nobody that can help him. It looks like Andy's going to just let him go back to base. It's not a bad idea, but you have taken all the gap closing. That's going to be really big. I was going to point out Utori's massive CS lead, but it's not going to be a big deal as they are starting to take the last inhibitor turret. He's not back at base. It doesn't matter if you have CS if you can't spend the gold that you have. And here he comes, getting a little bit of damage. And this is going to be the 3rd inhibitor, getting a triple inhib. The stun goes down onto Opperman. Calling just comes out to try and stop a little bit of damage. Gets his Dreadline onto Neo. They do need to fight very soon. Death Sentence lands onto a minion. Not going to do a whole lot. Ramana doesn't have the cooldowns he needs to do anything. Tussle's looking for something. And now we're just going to reset while we wait for the next minion wave to come up.
Yeah, really important right now. If USG continues to push, they did burn Remind Shockwave. It will be up within the next minute. But Rampage has a brief window of opportunity where they might be a stronger team fight. Instead, though, it looks like USG is just going to opt to continue to cement their lead and pressure this Elder Dragon.
Yeah, and this is the kind of thing that they absolutely cannot afford to lose. But Rampage, with Utori up in the top lane once again, just going for that massive CS lead. He's up 150. They're going to end up sacrificing this Elder Dragon, and the extra little bit of CS onto your ADC, while good, you're already at or very close to full build. It's not going to make that much difference, unfortunately, at this point in the game.
Yeah, and the other thing to point out is that even though you look at the numbers and you think, oh wow, Utori has this match, he doesn't really. Relative to other members, even though he's got 100 CS over Heredia, that's simply because he has a better wave clear than Ramune, and so he's been picking up that mid lane farm. So the 100 deficit from
that box from NT, that has to have been a misclick. Now, luckily for them, Rampage doesn't seem to know that cooldown was blown. So USG should be able to do stuff anyway, but that is very dangerous.
Yeah. It's really difficult though to contest a four dragon, elder dragon buffed
Uh-oh.
team.
Yeah,
They get a hook on Opperman, but it's not going to do that much.
yeah, Ramune is off on the side, and anything, any kind of CC landing onto that Aria will probably end the game. Here comes Jin Ultimate getting massive chunking down onto Evie. It's not doing a whole lot on its own necessarily, but that burn coming out is a lot. Char misses. Neo's trying to find a little bit, and that forces Ramne his first ultimate to come out. Redemption comes out. Dredgeline misses, and they are getting damage onto Dara. Ramne comes around the side, gets a good chunk down onto Reddy, but Dara and Evie getting caught up in that shockwave. Tussle's going to be the next one. Ramne kicked into the rest of the team. This is going to be the game as they do pick up the third member and the fourth member. Just kidding. There's just 4 members. 3 members. Numbers are difficult, guys. But there goes Evie, finally picked up by NT as I start moving towards the Nexus Church. And this is going to be game 2, tying up the series by Unsold Stuff, unless there's a massive play coming out from Utori and Tussle. I'd be very surprised. The Nexus is going down to half, and there's not a whole lot. Tussle's going to try and go in, and they're going to try and pick up those last couple of kills. They do pick up Utori, and Tussle's the last one alive, but it's not going to be enough to save the rest of the game. The Nexus is at hardly any damage. They can just choose to get it, but they're going to choose to use that box.
Yeah.
There it is, back up again, guys. But that is going to be the turnaround. Unsold Stuff taking the series back 1-1 as we move into game 3 between Rampage and Unsold Stuff.
Yeah, going into game 3, I'm really looking forward to seeing how these two teams adapt their pick and ban strategies. We saw, both teams really prioritize this Tom Kench, and it's worked out very well for both teams. I'm wondering if that's going to be a first pick priority or even a ban heading later on into the series, because it's had some great high quality moments for these teams. We talk about how these teams like to sort of dance around objectives. They don't want to commit to anything. They don't want to commit to a fight. Being able to immediately force a 3v2 or just a raw numbers advantage in a team fight has had great success.
And here we go. And this is the last fight we saw of the game. That massive shockwave coming down on Karma doing so much work. And Neo getting the kick he's been looking for this entire series so far. Just getting that kill down onto the RA, forcing them into a really bad situation. And Neo starting to live up to his namesake. He is starting to become the one. But if he can continue that, there might be an Agent Smith on the other team.
Yeah. And the previous game that we saw between Rampage and USG, I wasn't entirely sold on Neo's performance. This game I absolutely was.
Absolutely.
He had some really clutch Dragon's Rage, able to catch members out of position and just stall Unsold Gaming enough to, stall Rampage enough to tie the series up 1-1.
Yeah, and that was, very good play on some stuff. Yeah, I think what we were previously looking at, a very dominant performance from Rampage, we saw something very similar come back right out of the gate from Unsold Stuff. There's one thing that we haven't talked about yet. In the post-game, watching the two teams play, when Rampage won their first game, they seemed very happy and very, very excited at how well they were playing. When we saw Unsold Stuff after that last game, they seemed very stressed. They were in a situation where they all looked like, God, thank God it's over. Now, this is the best of 5. We've played the first 2 games, but you still have at least 2 more to play. And that mental resilience can be a really big deal. They play best of 3s throughout the regular season, just like many other regions. But a best of 5, that's at least an extra game that you have to play every single time. And just being able to keep up performance over long periods of time could be really big. And we'll have to see exactly how these two teams manage to keep that up as we move into game 3 once again.
Yeah. Right now, though, we're going to take a short break. I'm Zane Zen Nelson, joined by the Joshi Howard. We'll be right back with more LJL action right after this.